Spotify, one of the finest platforms we've ever been on,
Oh, stop sucking up. Continue.
has recently bought Findaway Voices. Findaway Voices is for independent authors who would like to publish their books in an audio distribution platform, and it was a very, very good way for a lot of great artists out there and a lot of great writers. So, Dave, you probably know all about this kind, maybe not this company, but I'm sure you know of this kind of distribution because you're a writer. But anyway, Spotify bought it, and Spotify unleashed a couple days ago. I think it was on the 15th. I think it was the day after Valentine's Day.
Thereabouts.
Yeah, they're roundabouts, and they had a new group of I guess you had to re-sign now that they bought this Findaway Voices. You had to sort of it had new rights that were given to Spotify now that they owned it. A lot of intellectual property rights were going to be given to them, and some of it is just outlandish when you read it. Some of it is crazy, but it pretty much, if you sign it away, if you would like your books audio distributed by Spotify as the parent company, you are actually signing away to have your book out there in an audio capacity for people to listen to, your independent authorship. You're signing away all your intellectual property rights. Spotify has clauses in their new contract you need to sign, the new deals that you need to sign, basically saying, hey, if we want to manipulate your works, we can. If we want to make sequels of your work, we can. Everything will belong to us. Basically, the characters that the writers invent, the world they invent, the books that they've created, all of it can be modified, manipulated, sold. It can be sold to other mediums, meaning that Spotify as a parent company could take your book and sell it off to some Hollywood's muckety muck to make it into a movie, and you don't own it. Spotify owns it. They're the distribution company that gave your sorry ass the platform for your book to get out there. So it's theirs in perpetuity. It's theirs for ever. And people lost their ever loving shit because of this. I don't know why you would try to slip in new clauses to writers, but they did. So you got new extreme extensive rights that Spotify would have. This started a couple days ago. Okay. So the authors, they've gone insane, and they're like, you, and they're pulling their books down off of this company, Findaway Voices, so that Spotify can't have it. And started hold on one second. I started a grassroots little community effort to basically tell everyone, don't put your books up there, and Spotify, don't listen to any of the shit on there. And now, because of the little makeshift union that's happened over the last couple days, Spotify is reconsidering the deal. Go ahead, Dave.
A couple things, and correct me if any of these specifics are incorrect, Jason, to your understanding. But as far as I understand it, as far as I know, one, it actually does not require the author to sign an agreement. All it does is it just states these are changes to our terms of service that go into effect March 15th, FYI. So therefore, I don't believe anyone has to sign anything. Just by staying on the service, you automatically surrender these rights as written to Spotify and, subsidiaries thereof. That's one. Second, there's also a clause in there, and I may get the specific wording wrong, but I'll clarify exactly what it means, that also gives up your moral rights to said intellectual property. Now, what that means is, let's say, for sake of argument, Jason, that you wrote and then narrated, because we're talking about audiobooks, but that you narrated an audiobook about the evils of the Holocaust. Okay. And I'm using that extreme example for a specific reason. So then under this, what a moral right is in this context is that you have the right as the creator to prevent your work from being assimilated in conjunction with, in tandem to, in compilation with other materials that you would find morally objectionable, or that you would believe would change the intent and the meaning of your work. What this, and that is a standard right that intellectual property law recognizes, even if, Jason, you as, say, an audiobook author, whatever, even if you signed your intellectual property over to a film company in an example that you just gave, you would still, under most circumstances, you would still hold on to your moral rights to that property, i.e., it couldn't be manipulated and changed to where all of a sudden it is assimilated with a pro-Nazi party platform, or edited to become a pro-Holocaust piece of work. That type of thing is called moral rights. So those are not signed away typically when a creator signs away the rights to adapt a work of which they are the creator. Included in these terms of service, again, it's not even a contract that someone has to sign. It's just, by staying under the service, you agree to this, and it goes into effect. I think it was March 15th is when it was supposed to take effect. They also give away any moral rights that they have to the work, which means Spotify could edit it to change the meaning. They could distribute it to any means which they see fit. And there would be absolutely, positively no legal recourse or compensation to the original creator. I think those are a couple of important points to also bring into this conversation for context.
No, absolutely. You're right. It's not signing anything. It's just saying like, hey, these are the new clauses in the contract with which you have to be part of if you would like us to distribute your shit.
It's
And
pages of terms of use, which anyone who has ever used a website of any kind, or has an email, or goes to YouTube, or uses a Google anything,
yeah,
there are pages and pages of terms of use that you just basically click accept, because you're not going to read all that shit. And then if they ever change them, which is exactly what happened here, then you don't have to re-click the box. They just have to notify you inside of, I think it's like 30 days. Oh, by the way, we're changing a couple of terms. And if you continue to use our service, then you automatically accept these terms.
yeah, you terms of agreement have now changed to where we get your firstborn, and you have to donate plasma so that we can make clones eventually. I mean, just crazy shit that no one would read this books and books of material. Okay, it's just the way it is. Anyway, these people. I can say this for a fact that it was so just disgusting to read
Blatant, yeah.
that this would happen, particularly with a company that I can tell you for a fact, have had such a good relationship with for so long. Honestly, for 4.5 years now. Well, not the beginning. So it'd be about 4 years. Spotify is the finest platform that we're on. It just is. They
Can I
just
push
all.
back on that for 1 second? Not push
Yeah,
back
of
on it, but
course. Yeah.
let me, for context, because some listeners may not know this. I think another reason, in all fairness, Jason, playing devil's advocate, why we could say that is because we also have not pursued monetization or tried to get anything
Right.
from them for our content. I'm sure
Yeah.
if
Well,
that
that's
was
true.
not the dynamic, that our opinion may very well change, much like it has for many musicians on the platform.
Well, absolutely, you're right. The thing is that look, I'm not advocating for other podcasts. What the hell you guys? But I don't know. All
Right.
I know is
I
what
know.
we've been through. But this authorship problem for independent authors, it just it's absolutely nauseating, because as a creative person, which I've been my whole life, and Dave is still a very creative person, you just look at it and you're like, this is how, in a way, it's always been, but it's going to get way, way worse in the new digital age of distribution. And the thing is, like, back in the day, they would have, and I like kind of talking about this because it kind of leads to film school discussion, which we'll get to. So many directors that became badass directors that you guys know today. George Lucas and Francis Coppola and Martin Scorsese and Brian De Palma, all these guys. they sort of had to make a deal with the devil. They had to go to film school, not because they needed direction on how to make a film. They just needed the damn cameras. They needed the cameras that the film school had to go make THX, to go make Mean Streets, to go make whatever they wanted to make. Okay. Then when they got out of film school, they had to Hollywood for the most part to get the cameras and distribution, because it wasn't like today where someone could just wake up and go, you know what, I'm going to make a documentary today about a Cuisinart. Here we go. Let me get my iPhone out. Let me edit it on iMovie, and then I'm going to throw it on YouTube, and it, boom, I'm my own studio. Although YouTube owns it, but the thing is that it's one of those
Not the
deals
intellectual
where
property. No, actually.
no, but you know what I mean. Like they can go, we're not showing this shit anymore. So you're always whoever gives you distribution throughout the entire history of creativity. Really, you are, okay? And that goes from Broadway to Orson Welles making Citizen Kane to anything. All creative people have to distribution, have to producers. And the producers and distribution and companies that own all of the money and the wherewithal to make creative set endeavor and get it out to the masses, they've always had I think, a hate relationship with creative people. I really think they have. They're pissed that they have to use them to make the product that they sell. They would much rather just sell and have a product that they make like a sausage factory. Now, as digital has happened, and these companies are now becoming more and more, all let's put it this way. There's always been more supply than there is the demand, quite frankly, in creativity. It's why actors starve in LA. There's just too many of them.
Well, that's
Okay.
slightly reversed in as far as acting, as far as jobs to people. There's a far greater demand than there is supply. But as far as the actual creative content of which people are now devouring through various digital platforms, then yes, you're absolutely correct. The supply far exceeds demand if we're talking about everything from YouTube videos to web series to television programs to movies
To podcasts, there's just
yes